What if the future of cancer isn't about just treatment of fighting cancer itself, but maybe empowering the body to heal itself with different ways, whether it's allopathic or natural? What if there's other ways that the body can shift and start healing without the traditional, conventional ways of treating cancer? What if a single drug could starve cancer by targeting a certain thing that you may not even know about? Well, there's so much we don't know. And one of the reasons that I am going to introduce you, I'm sure a lot of you already know who he is, but I am sure that today's class is going to be life-changing and perhaps life-saving. So today I am introducing you to Dr. Mark Rosenberg, and he is an integrative oncologist from Boca, Florida. I think it's Boca. He'll correct me when he comes on. But for now, I want you to be curious instead of critical. I want you to get to know Dr. Rosenberg and understand one of the reasons why he was selected to be the keynote speaker at the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit for Cancer and Autoimmune Dys-Ease on November 1st in Rockledge, Florida. And he will be there to answer questions. Remember, he's not going to be your doctor, but if we're all there together, we're learning and growing. Imagine how much more tools you will walk away with when you are learning with all the teachers there, including Dr. Mark Rosenberg. So get your paper, get your pens, because we're going to learn and grow together. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you. Hi, my name is Lily McDermott, and I am a certified life coach, a certified holistic cancer coach, and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show, Classroom. If this is the first time you're in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening and viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, today is an exciting dream of mine because I get to introduce you, if you don't know who he is, to Dr. Mark Rosenberg. He is an MD, and he's going to join us in a little bit to share his credentials and why he does what he does and how we can benefit from learning from Dr. Rosenberg. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, and I'm grateful that Dr. Mark Rosenberg is here to do just that. Welcome, Dr. Rosenberg, to the classroom. I'm so glad I finally get the privilege to introduce you to the people in the classroom.
Thank you so much, Lily. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited that you're here as well. Now, it's funny because I had been waiting for my keynote speaker. And the way you came about was just so amazing because I had walked into your office many, many, many years ago, and here we're coming full circle. You're walking into my classroom, and we get to exchange all the history in your journey as well. You started as an emergency doctor, as I think I read that in your bio. But what led you to your path that you are in today? Share a little bit about your
Okay,
background. There you go.
sure. So, yeah, my formal training and board certification was emergency medicine. I ran Walter Reed Army Medical Center's emergency department. I ran two other emergency departments in South Florida, and then about 21 years ago, 2004, my mother walked into my emergency department when I was working, and I diagnosed her with metastatic lung cancer to liver, spleen, bilateral adrenal glands, and left hip. And that's where my journey regarding cancer research began.
Yeah. Okay. And so was it at that moment that you said, I want to help my mom, or were you able to help her? Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So, for about 3 weeks, I don't think I slept very much, and I hit the internet as much as I could, and I took my mom up to Jefferson in Philadelphia. I actually went to Penn undergrad, but we had some connections in Jefferson, and they said, look, if you do nothing, maybe you should live 4 months, maybe 6 months, but chemotherapy, maybe 6 months. So chemotherapy may give her about another 2 months. And I was blown away that, with all of our advancements, even 21 years ago, that that's all we had to give another 2 months of life, and probably making her sick during that time. So that's when my journey began, and I started researching cancer online, and then I took that even further, and we can get into that more, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I am ready. I want to know a little bit about, the reason why you didn't go the total allopathic route. Did you
Well,
decide that was not worth the time, or she try that at first?
well, my mom did not, but what I did is I researched all the available literature that I can find worldwide at that time, and I realized what conventional allopathic medicine had to offer was not very promising. Also, from an alternative standpoint, I didn't have data. But I will tell you what ended up happening. The oncologist told my mom, you likely have between 4 and 6 months. And after reviewing everything, my mom said, I'll do IV vitamin C. And I had never done that before. And we did that. And my mom lived 11 months. And I would say 10 of those 11 months were really good quality. And so, although, 11 months is not enough, it was nearly double what they predicted.
Absolutely. And I'm so sorry for your loss. I know that is a terrible way to learn is through the people that you love. And
Yes. Yeah.
but I'm sure that that was the way you needed to learn about this. And now,
Yeah.
did the oncologist offer vitamin C, or
Yeah.
did she receive options from you?
No, she didn't. I didn't even tell her anything that I'd read because I certainly was aware that she would not be interested in hearing, what I had read, and so she just offered, chemotherapy, and that was it. That's all they had to offer.
And how did your mom know about IV vitamin C?
Well, so I presented her with hundreds of pages, that I pulled down from the internet, and she looked through everything and she said, "That I'll do IV vitamin C because it sounds very benign," and that's how she picked it.
Okay, so now you're classically trained. Now you're learning about vitamin C, and you're seeing that it doubled, the life expectancy that they had given her, which, by the way, I always say that if a doctor only believes that they have a expiration date on you, I don't want to go to a doctor like that. So I want a doctor that will believe I will live if that's what I want. And so I'm sorry that your mom was given that expiration date, but I'm so happy that she went beyond it and
Thank
showed
you.
you, as a great teacher that she was, what your next journey would be like. So you see this experience with your mom, and now you decide, how do you leave medicine, at the ER? How do you leave all of that? How do you step into that next
So it's
step?
really very interesting because, I was well known in my hospital, and I during my previous hospital at Walter Reed Army Medical Center, I was a consultant for poisons and overdoses, and I taught residents. And so in the hospital where I was in at the time when I diagnosed my mom, I was considered, valuable.
You were a rock
um,
star, let's just face it.
yeah, I was, yeah, and I would, they would bring me up, even though I ran the emergency department. They would sometimes ask me to come upstairs and consult on other cases, and then I opened up my own practice, after my mom, and I there was buzzing in the hospital because I basically lived in the hospital, and there were I won't name a name, but I'll never forget there was a very intelligent radiologist who said, that Dr. Rosenberg, and he was really smart, but something happened to him, and he went off, and and he lost his mind, and
Mm.
and I heard that, and of course I didn't even respond, but what I did is I did my practice part time and part time, being in the hospital until I was full time in my practice, and I honestly I didn't miss being in the emergency department because it was a whole new path. It was a whole new path for me.
Well, let's talk about that path. Other than vitamin C as the first step and what your mom, smart, smart, smart mother, the teacher that she was, chose for herself, how did you start looking? What was your discovery, your curiosity? How long did it take you to kind of formulate a plan? Did you start doing oncology first, or did you start just, family practice? How did that go?
Well, it was an interesting combination because um, about 5 years before I diagnosed my mom, even though I was doing emergency medicine, I attended my first, it was actually 1998. I attended my first conference in anti-aging medicine, the
Mm.
American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. And I ended up becoming a consultant to them and a board member. And so I was already actively involved in that. So in my practice, I was doing internal medicine, longevity medicine. And then, I ended up transitioning to, probably 80% of my practice being cancer.
Wow. Did you
But
look
the
for
thing
it, or did
is,
they find you?
oh, I'm sorry.
Did you look for that, or did they
Oh,
find
no, no,
you?
no.
Was
It
that an
was all
accident
word of
too?
mouth.
Yeah, yeah.
It was all word of mouth. And interestingly, fairly early on, I ended up getting a call because people started hearing about me, and actually, even the academic oncologists started hearing about me. And again, I won't name names, but there was a neurosurgeon. I don't want to say the hospital just because. Anyway, there was a neurosurgeon at an academic center whose poor son was dying of neuroblastoma,
Oh,
and and he called me and he said, "Do you have any ideas?" And I said, I do. And I designed an in vitro study using his son's cancer cells. And the study was remarkably successful. It was in vitro. Unfortunately, his son passed very quickly. So we never got um, to use what I had discovered in the in vitro study on his son. But what it was a great learning experience for me, which actually led to another study at another university. But what ended up happening is I became a cancer researcher as much as I am an integrative oncologist.
so when you are looking at, was it, is it glioblastoma? Is it different than neuroblastoma?
It is, yes, it is.
Okay, because I just interviewed, gosh, actually not just interviewed. He just passed away after 10 years. He had glioblastoma.
Wow,
Yes, 10 years. And
amazing.
his oncologist, he never did chemo. And he only did he would do the carnivore diet, and then his tumors would go down. And then they would do the surgery and remove the tumors, and then he would go on. And for 10 years he did this. And I was interviewing him when his oncologist called him and said that the tumors had returned, but if he didn't do chemotherapy, they would drop him. Right there, I was in the process with that with him,
Wow.
and shortly after, that was July, and he passed in August, I believe, April and August, and it was so sad because why wouldn't anybody be curious, like you were curious as to what the vitamin C did to your mom, and here you are now, your path has been lit by more and more people. So, what is the difference between neuroblastoma and glioblastoma?
So we often will see neuroblastoma in children. And
Mm.
as far as grading, the most aggressive of the brain tumors is GBM or glioblastoma. And neuroblastoma is a problem with children. Don't get me wrong. But the most rapidly proliferating of the brain tumors is the glioblastoma with standard of care, a median survival of about 14.3 months. I mean,
Mm.
just a little over a year. And we really haven't come very far in pushing the envelope, much further than that with standard of care, I should say.
With standard of care. Okay, so what did you discover with this test with this sweet young man?
So what I ended up doing at the time is I really got involved in looking at the glycolytic nature of cancer, meaning the some tumors more than others really rely on sugar. There is, in the on the internet, in the lay coming from the lay public, I think there's a sense that all cancer feeds on sugar, and cancer can't survive in a high oxygen environment, and neither of those are true. Now, having said that, many of the resistant cells can become more glycolytic or sugar loving. But that doesn't mean that, all cancer feeds on sugar by any means. Having said that, glioblastoma happens to be one of the tumors that is significantly glycolytic or sugar loving. So what I did is I didn't develop a new drug, but I put a cocktail of drugs together that blocked, and bear with me, I have to throw in a little basic science here. So when cancer takes up glucose, and because it's proliferating rapidly, it needs to generate energy or ATP for the cell very quickly. So it
Yes.
prefers to use something called glycolysis. Now, the end product of glycolysis is pyruvate, and what this cancer cells do is to rapidly make ATP or energy, they convert pyruvate to lactate or lactic acid, and then they pump that lactic acid out of their cells. And when they do, that means outside the cancer cells is a lot of acid. And that acid turns off our immune system and promotes further proliferation of the cancer. So, what I surmised was, or hypothesized was, if I can put together a cocktail of 3 or 4 drugs that block the cancer's ability to pump its own acid out, that not only will the tumor microenvironment outside the cancer cells be less acidic, which is good for our immune system, but the cancer cells will fill up with their own acid and they'll die. And that's exactly what we found in the in vitro study, which was exciting. And we ended up, I have some buddies that have been in big pharma. And the problem with creating a new drug is this wasn't. This was a cocktail of old drugs that the intellectual property was gone. So although the concept was exciting, and after I had done that, I mean, the literature, there are a lot of other people reporting on this, that this is an exciting concept, but it's not financially exciting, because the only time it becomes financially exciting is when you can get a composition patent, meaning it's a new drug, a new molecular structure, and that's when it's exciting financially.
Mm. Well, I mean, you're talking about the industry.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
here's the thing, as you know, who's going to fund all the studies? It's big pharma, that because these studies are ridiculously expensive, studies in humans, 50, 75, $100 million. So the only entities that can fund studies like that, unless the government wanted to do it, is big pharma. And if there's no payday, then it won't be studied. And that's the problem. There, as you know, there are a lot of repurposed drugs that people are using for cancer, but we don't have the data. And the honest truth is, I don't know, for most of these drugs, we're not going to generate the data because we can't get anybody to fund the studies.
But can you, anecdotally, because sometimes for me, an anecdotal story is more valuable to me than a trial that is funded by the same company that's paying for the trial.
Sure.
So, so have you been able to duplicate this anecdotally with other patients of yours?
Yeah. So, with regards to the blocking of lactic acid efflux, I was using that for a while, and and I was getting some success. Now I've continued to evolve. If we are to be good physicians, you should never stop learning.
Correct.
So my practice is continuing to evolve. I do things differently now than I did even 2 or 3 years ago.
I love that.
And if I am if I'm not constantly changing, that means I've figured out the solution, or I'm no longer learning.
Very good. Very good. And that's so true. That is the essence of what we talk about in the classroom as well.
Yeah.
Why we're so aligned in our belief system too. So let's talk about that. So have you like did you wake up in the middle of the night? Was this a download that you received from a higher power to put these drugs together that traditionally are not put together, but then all of a sudden you're hearing that other people are doing it too. Did you
Yeah.
publish something or was something written about it?
So yeah, we what I ended up doing is I didn't it wasn't like this great epiphany. I was just researching and I came upon one article and I said, wait a minute, let me see if there's an because there are other drugs that will block this too. And I just kind of pieced it all together. But when you talk about kind of an epiphany, I will tell you a filter that I recently got a patent on. Just literally finally got the patent approved about a month ago,
Wow.
and this was kind of one of my. I was falling asleep, kind of one of these almost like lucid dreaming. I was sort of dreaming, sort of awake. I wasn't sure which I was, and I was literally watching circulating tumor clusters in the bloodstream. And so I had to wake up, and lucky for me, it was a Sunday morning, and I went to the computer because I was seeing these clusters, and I will share with you what I've developed. So many, if you ask many people, both oncologists and the lay public, how does cancer spread around the body? They'll tell you that, cells break off from the primary location, they find their way into circulation, and they spread. Well, that's not entirely true. It turns out that almost every individual circulating tumor cell gets killed in circulation within 2 hours. And so, what I was seeing when I was having this dreamlike state is I was seeing clusters. So then and this goes back about 5 years ago. So I typed into the computer circulating tumor clusters, and I found some really interesting data, and we've accumulated more. So it turns out that there are unique clusters that are predetermined to leave the primary tumor. And I call these clusters organisms. They're organisms unto themselves because these clusters are loaded with cancer stem cells. They're often surrounded by endothelial cells to develop new blood vessels. They're often surrounded by neutrophils to protect them. They're often surrounded by cancer associated adipocytes to nourish them and cancer associated fibroblasts to lay down more tumor microenvironment. So they're it's like a house. I mean, they enter circulation and we can't touch them. We don't know what to do with them. And they have 50 to 100 times the metastatic potential of a circulating tumor cell. So when we see clusters, we know what's coming down the pike, even if it's early stage cancer. Well, if you see a cluster, it's not early stage. We know what's coming down the pike. So what I ended up doing is I woke up early in the morning and I started drawing out my filter. And I said, I'm going to make an extracorporeal filter, kind of like a dialysis filter, and we'll let the patient's blood go from one arm, go through the filter, eliminate all the clusters, and then let everything else return to the body. So we won't take anything out except for the clusters. And it was pretty easy for me to design because I made sure that the pore size of the filter is larger than the largest single cell in the body. So by definition, anything that's larger than the largest single cell is by definition a cluster. And so we did 2 in vitro studies at University of Michigan, and now I need to raise money because I want to do a human study. we did get approached from a group in India. So in the United States, they want us to do an animal trial, not another, but an animal trial, taking dogs that are dying of hemangiosarcoma. And, that alone, that trial alone, just on the dogs, 10 dogs will cost us about $1 million.
Wow.
Now, we have a group from India
Wow.
that said, if you can get some certification that we want, which will cost us a couple $1 million, we'll go right to humans in India, which is, I'm excited. I want to do that because, again, there's no danger to humans because I'm not putting anything in the body. And the only thing I'm removing are clusters,
Yeah.
which are not normal. So I'm hoping this is going to be my legacy to humanity,
Mm.
because I've done enough research on this to say, wow, this can help us manage advanced stage disease as a chronic disease by stopping the metastatic seeding process.
Wow. Wow. So now 5 years ago, this is something that you envisioned. This was a somewhat of a dream that
Yeah.
has become a reality. Have you used it with anyone, or is this just a hypothesis at this point?
Oh, so again, we did in vitro studies, but no, we cannot. And if we were to use, this device without approval, yeah, I mean, I don't care if we cured everybody, no, there's a price to pay for that.
Yeah, and you understand that there's a bigger pocket that would want it to fail as opposed to you succeed.
Well, so here's what we're going to be pushing on this is that we're not going to compete with chemotherapy, immunotherapy, radiation. What we're doing is we're going to make the standard therapy work better because what we're going to do is prevent the spreading. So it's not, either this or this. It's both. So nobody's going to be upset with us because
Good.
honestly, it'll make their standard therapy look better.
Excellent, excellent. So now this is something that you've discovered along the way, kind of like a side little thing that you're doing. But so let's talk about other cancers. So you started doing your aesthetic or the anti-aging clinic, and but still with your anti-aging clinic, people have come 80% cancer. So what are some of
Yes.
the cancers that you feel that you've gotten to the point where, man, I feel very good to offer hope, much more hope than they would get for traditional medicine.
Well, I don't treat the hematologic or blood cancers. I only treat the solid tumors. And the reason is a lot of our methodologies for treating the blood cancers are better, and I agree with the process. The solid tumors, we really haven't we haven't extended lifespan for advanced stage cancer by very much. So as far as which solid tumors do I feel good about? Well, I can tell you, I think I extend survival over standard of care on treating most of the solid tumors, but ultimately, I don't cure them, and I realize I have to talk myself down because every patient becomes my family member, and for example, I just lost someone, and I've been treating her with metastatic colorectal cancer for a few years, and she and her husband have become very close to me, and I realized that I bought her, years more than she would have had, but um, but I didn't cure her, and she eventually succumbed to the disease, and it's sad, but I have a lot of learning to do because I have to accept. And and I'm going to throw this in because people ask me, do I think we'll ever have a cure for all cancers? And I don't. I don't think we will ever have a cure. And I know we're all looking at eliciting the immune system. I mean, that's where a lot of the exciting research is going. The problem is cancer is a unique disease to every individual. It's a dynamic disease, constantly evolving in response to our treatment. And I'm honestly, I probably wouldn't have said this 15 years ago, but now I don't think we're ever going to have a consistent cure for advanced stage solid tumors.
Now, do you think that we're not going to have a cure because people don't want a cure? The people that are making a lot of money are not promoting that, or do you feel that the cancer, advanced stage cancers, I think that's what you're referring to, advanced
Yes.
stage cancers, there's nothing to get get a handle on them, or I mean,
Yeah, I think that it's very difficult, and I think a lot of the research has been. I don't think a lot of the research is optimal. So we're targeting a protein, or we're targeting a checkpoint. Now the the entire body, not just the endocrine system, the immune system, but it is extremely complex, and there's always an upstream and downstream to any point you're targeting, any protein you're targeting. There's something downstream of that, and there's something upstream. And
mhm,
so when you block or stimulate a specific target, you're going to end up causing upstream and downstream effects. And so there's always a price to pay, no
mhm.
matter what we do. So I think it's extremely complex and really above our heads right now to come up with a cure. Having said that, I don't agree with and I get it. I don't agree with a lot of the research because here's the thing. If you target a specific, or I shouldn't say target, if you zero in on a specific target, look, we know we're not going to cure you. We know it's only a matter of time before they'll develop resistance. But
Mhm.
if you are able to increase progression free survival by 2 or 3 months, overall survival by 3 months, well, you may have $1 billion drug or better on your hands. So there's a lot of interest in just kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit because it generates money.
Okay, so and I know that physicians don't heal, God heals, and I just want to say that clearly that all we can do is we can guide people, we can help people, but ultimately God is in control. So I hope that you don't feel responsible for your patient's death. But I wanted to ask, just for a perspective, this patient that you just referred to that just passed away, that you say you claim you couldn't help, did you improve the quality of care? If she would have gone with traditional medicine, allopathic, or did she have a quality? Like you mentioned, your mom, out of the 11 months that she lived, 10 were quality. And for someone who's dying of cancer, that's a huge, huge benefit. So with your patient that you were treating, did she have a quality of care?
Sure. So I don't want to say I didn't help. I definitely helped. And her husband was so appreciative because she lived probably 3 years longer than she would have.
Mhm.
And I will tell you, 2.5 of those years were good quality of life. So it's not that I'm getting down on myself because I didn't help them. I am helping these people.
Mhm.
But, and this is, I guess, my personality. Um, it's,
You go,
and I
you
will
go
tell
all
you,
in. You go all in, right?
yeah, I mean, they become my family. As a matter of fact, there's someone, I'm in my office now, and my whole staff, we fell in love with this lady, just a sweetheart of a lady. And she actually had arrested in the hospital, metastatic breast cancer all over the place. We got her another 8 years,
Wow.
and she lived 8 more years and over 7 years with great quality of life. And I cried with her husband,
Mhm.
and he said, "Mark, why are you crying? You got us 8 more years together, you
Mhm.
know?" And I'm getting chills now and tearing up because it's not enough. And so I think, and I think it's the way we need to think. We need to keep pushing the envelope to the point where we can say, you know what, even if I can't cure it, let's make this a manageable disease that people can die of a heart attack or something else down the road.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say and what I'm excited about is that people can live with cancer. They don't have to be, I mean, I've seen some people that I care about that they may have lived 5 years or 6 years, but the last 5 years of their life was bedridden, swollen, and almost comatose state, not themselves. So, what you're offering and what this alternative, no, I wouldn't call it alternative, and I wouldn't even say natural, integrative approach to healing and health, may be a way where not everybody has cancer for the same reasons, even if it's the same kind of cancer. Like, so what do you say to people that perhaps, there's one breast cancer, another breast cancer, another breast cancer? Could they be all caused by the same thing? Or how do you become like a medical detective to discover the root cause of the cancer? And can you at that point help them?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because I want to address that. I hear a lot of patients coming to me and saying, I want to get to the root cause because I think if we get to the root cause, I can fix it.
Mhm.
And that is not my belief system in cancer at all.
Okay.
So, how are you going to find the root cause? As you know, in the world, but specifically in the United States of America, there are toxins all over the place.
Hmm.
When you eat, you're putting poison in your mouth. And you do your best, of course. And I
Hmm.
do my best to eat clean, to eat all organic, to eat mostly plant based. But it is so hard to be healthy in this country. To put it in perspective, the life expectancy in this country is about 76.4 years. In Cuba, they live 3 years longer than we do. We are the sickest, wealthiest nation by far in the world.
Wow, I did not know
It,
that statistic about Cuba.
it
Wow.
is really sad. And I will tell you that I was one of four doctors that the assistants to RFK reached out to in November of last year to head up a task force and try to clean things up because we are aware of what's going on. And so, I'm sure you're familiar with micro and nanoplastics, where it's
Yes.
just loaded in all the
Yeah.
organs. And of course, now with the spike protein from COVID, as well as the vaccine, we're finding it in all of our tissues, the water supply, the food supply. So when someone says, I want to find the root cause, um, there are just an inordinate amount of toxins that are really concentrated in this country. And I think for you to try to pinpoint, oh, what was the predominant cause, I don't think that's realistic. But the bottom line is, even if you narrowed it down, which you can, to 5 or 7 toxins,
Yeah.
um, it's not like, okay, so if I remove those toxins, is everything going to go back to normal? I'm not seeing that. And so, um, the best that I know how to do is to try to elicit the immune system. Like I will use the new immunotherapy drugs, but in much smaller doses
Hmm.
because there's data to back it up.
Hmm.
I will use different combinations of chemotherapy, but in much smaller doses. And one of the things that's kind of a segue for me because when I teach, and tell patients, there's no substance that's inherently toxic or benign. It it depends on the dose. So, for example, if I injected you with a large amount of king cobra venom, I'll probably kill you pretty quickly. But if I give you a tiny, tiny, tiny amount, I'll stimulate an immune response. And that's why there's a sweet spot for everything. And even, chemotherapy gets a bad rap. And the reason it gets a bad rap is because of the dosing that is used in standard oncology. But when used in smaller doses, it can still do a good job with less toxicity and stimulate an immune response. So I am really going down the road of using every tool that's available, and trying to find the right doses. But I have not found success in finding the root cause and, reversing disease by eliminating the root cause.
Do you do a spirit, mind, body approach to working with people? And I know that there have been cases where people have uh, gotten better and started the healing process when they've been able to deal with a rape, for example, or a divorce, be able to do different things to kind of allow the body to accept what they cannot control.
Sure. I think it's very important. Now, I don't have the time to personally get into the spiritual aspect, although I
Mhm.
do talk to individuals about that. And I know that's very, very important. So I encourage that. Obviously, I only can do so much. I mean, I will tell you, I've been down, explored many roads in my long path. I even, um, over 20 years ago, I got trained in clinical hypnosis, and I did just to learn, and I found it very valuable. So I really believe that many of these adjunctive techniques are extremely helpful, and mind body medicine is so important. I mean, we have data that shows that if you're depressed, if you're sad, your immune function is not as good. Your NK, your natural killer cells don't work as well. Your T lymphocytes don't work as well. So, everything is connected. And yeah, the spiritual and mind body connection is very important.
Yeah, yeah. And that's some of the things that we talk about here in the classroom. We want to make sure that everybody knows that one size does not fit all. And I love the different approaches that Dr. Rosenberg shares with his patients so that, you do everything you possibly can for that individual, tailoring to that individual. And so I am excited to announce once again that we have Dr. Rosenberg. He's going to be our keynote speaker at the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit. There's a lot more that we're going to be discussing at the summit, and I know that all of you will leave with feeling empowered to not just choose prevention for yourself, but reversal and how to mitigate the recurrence of cancer as well. So I want to encourage you to get your tickets as soon as possible. Every time we do a class on the I Am the Solution, I give away 2 free tickets. So please text me at 407-373-5959 and put your name in the winner's basket. A week from today, I will draw either one person and give them 2 tickets, or 2 people and give each one, depending on the first one that I draw. So just get your name in there, especially if cost is the reason why you can't come, then just go ahead and submit. But if you are able to make it on November 1st and you can be there all day, click the link below and you can start your journey with us as well. I want to encourage you to go to whenyounneedafriend.com, where you can learn more about the event and other things that we do in the classroom. And I want to encourage you that once you're there, go to whenyounneedafriend.com. Please subscribe to my website, like and follow me on all social media, share this video, invite your friends, because friends that learn together grow together. And so get your family, your children, come and experience what it's like to take your health back. And whatever that looks like for you, it might be different than what it looks like for me, but we'll all come together with a like-mindedness that we're here to learn and grow together. And so I want to encourage you to also check out my sponsors, check out my Shop Now bag, and make sure that you look at all the Lilly approved products that are from head to toe and from makeup to pain management. And so check them out. And then last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, a one-time donation, whatever the case might be, of your time, your talent, your treasure, all of it is appreciated. Just like we appreciate Dr. Rosenberg today for coming into the classroom. He could be anywhere, but he chose to be here today to share his wisdom with you. I know that Dr. Rosenberg is being very, very modest, and you are able to, if you would like to, and he's doing a lot of work, and you can find him at AMT, that's A, like American Or is it American? What does AMT stand for? AMT Care.
Advanced Medical Therapeutics.
That's it. Okay. I didn't write it down here, but okay, advanced medical, so amtcare.com, and you can learn more about Dr. Rosenberg. But he's just being super, super modest because I am sure there are a lot of people that you've been able to help that have walked away from you saying, if it weren't for you and your tender care, they would probably be gone, especially if they've chosen the macro doses of chemotherapy that perhaps maybe were prescribed in the allopathic community. But I know that there are other things that you do to make sure that when you do use certain, like if you were to do a low dose chemotherapy, that the patient's body can receive that. What are some of the tools that you use to make sure that when you choose a path for the individual, that it's not going to react to their body?
Well, when I use chemotherapy, there's actually an interesting article that talks about medium dose chemotherapy and gets to the science. And so generally, what we're doing is we're not using such high doses that causes the immune system to fail. But I do use, supplements. And for example, if someone has low platelets, I use papaya leaf extract in capsules. And there's data to back that up. And certainly, anecdotally, I've seen the response. When we need the white blood cells to come up a little bit, you can certainly use a powerful drug like Neupogen to increase the production of white cells. But you can also use shark liver oil. And there's data showing that the alkyl glycerols and squalene in shark liver oil can modestly increase white blood cells. Um, I also use the peptide thymosin alpha 1 to increase not only the immune response or improve the immune response, but improve T lymphocyte production. So, what we do, and of course, we talk about diet. There's a lot of data coming out on fasting around chemotherapy, which mitigates a lot of the side effects and potentiates the efficacy of chemotherapy. And people are even doing fasting mimicking diets that really got popular from Walter Longo. So again, it's a broad approach. The power tools obviously are the chemotherapy and immunotherapy, but the adjuncts around it help make it safe for the patient.
Very good. I mean, there's just so much we don't know. What would you say? Because here you talked about a couple of patients that you've lost, and as the biggest critic of ourselves, we always are harder on ourselves for what we haven't done than what we've done. And so let's talk about some of the patients that have lived on, even despite of not being able to find, the root cause or that they
Sure.
are now thriving.
So I have a patient right now that I saw. Was it this morning? I'm losing time. Was it this morning or yesterday? It was this morning. Um, and no, I apologize. It was yesterday.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
this this lady came to me with metastatic breast cancer. Her lung was filling up with fluid, and it had to be drained every week. She also had ascites or fluid in her abdomen. She also had too numerous to count lesions in her liver. She also had such involvement of the disease throughout all her bones with an impending left hip fracture. That she presented to me, I guess, about a little over a year ago. She just came back from her second cruise, and she has nothing lighting up on PET scan whatsoever. She looks normal, she feels normal, and just seeing her yesterday, it just made me want to cry because she has her life back. And now I'm continuing to use this chemotherapy once a month. That's all. And it doesn't bother her at all. And she's going on with her life. And again, I would say that any oncologist, if they had seen her when she presented to me, And by the way, we had to put what's called a Pleurex catheter because her lung had to be drained every week, but she was drowning before that week that before she went to get it drained each week. So we had to put a catheter in so every day she can drain her lung by herself. And now she's got no tubes in anywhere, and she's hitting the gym, going on cruises. Actually, just yesterday told me she's going on another cruise, and that is satisfying to me. I mean, very satisfying. Now, if she were to die 10 years from now from cancer, I would beat myself up still.
Yeah, but see, but we get to take ownership of our life. And sometimes we know what we need to do, but we don't do it 100%. We might do it 80%. I remember it was Dr. Esselstyn, or no, yeah, it was Dr. Esselstyn that someone had gone to him and said, Dr. Esselstyn, I do your diet 90% of the time or 80% of the time. And he said, but that's not my diet. My diet is 100% of the time. And I'm like, oh, I better keep my mouth shut because not everybody is able to do it. And I really believe, and this is my belief system, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, and maybe you can correct me afterwards, but what I believe is that even if you eat something that is not 100, I'm not talking about processed foods. I am talking about something that I know that vegans think that it has to be a vegan way, or if it's carnivore, it has to be a carnivore. But let's say I eat something and I normally don't eat that. And I'm eating it with gusto, remembering about my childhood when I had it and how fun I used to have. And it was a one-time thing. I'm just having it one time. For me to feel guilt over that food that I'm eating and enjoying and blessing my body and praying over the food, I believe that that's going to be healthier than if I am just structured, wanting to be perfect 100% of the time. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I don't argue with that at all. And again, we understand so little about the body. It's so complex. Socrates said, "I'm the wisest man in the world, for I know now that I know nothing." And and I'm just gonna again, this is another segue. When I was young, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was so proud of myself because I knew everything, and I was cocky, and yeah, I guess I was I was cocky, but because I was ignorant that I didn't know that I don't know anything. But it was a better time because it's a little scary when you get to be my age and you realize how little I know. But having said that, I'll share an anecdote with you. So I've been, haven't eaten red meat in I don't know how many years, but I grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, and I used to go into the city and I met my sister and her husband, and we went to Star Deli in Manhattan. This is like 7 years ago, and I hadn't eaten it in red meat or processed meat or anything in I don't know how long. And I said to my sister, "I'm going to have a New York kosher hot dog, and I'm going to have a corned beef sandwich, and I'm going to enjoy this like I did when I was a kid." And it was wonderful. It was now I haven't done it again, but I don't think I did any harm to my body because I the mind body connection there, the spiritual connection to what I was eating was wonderful.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just want to say full disclosure here. There is something else that Dr. Rosenberg is going to be speaking about, and really quick, in 1 minute or less. I want to talk about TM. I was going to have the courage to say what it was, but it's tetrahyomolidate. Did I say
No,
that incorrectly?
it's it's ammonium tetrathiomolybdate.
I ruined it. Okay, so go
Okay.
ahead, share a little bit about it and
So
what you're doing with that.
very quickly, I've been using this for 20 plus years, and it's a copper chelator. It gets rid of your copper, and I'll speak more about it. But the bottom line is copper is essential for angiogenesis or the development of new blood vessel growth. Cancer requires it. At least 10 growth factors for cancer require copper. So if we lower the copper, we can really slow the cancer down. And I have a lot to share, a lot of data to share about that.
Yeah, today is to get to know Dr. Rosenberg. He is going to be coming back in the classroom before we do hopefully before we do the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit. I want to encourage all of you, if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, that you will do it right away so that I know it's going to sell out this year because last year, I thought prevention, prevention, prevention. Well, it turns out people don't care about prevention. We had 160 people there, but people don't really care about prevention. But now we're going to be talking about reversal and slowing down or stopping recurrence. And that's where Dr. Rosenberg comes in. And Dr. Rosenberg, I am so grateful to your commitment. I know you're so hard on yourself, but I know that there's so many positive stories and history that has walked out of your office being so grateful for your caring and your staff and everything that you're doing to move the needle over to curing cancer. I believe, and maybe it's because I'm a 20-year-old at heart, but I believe that we will, maybe not the pharmaceutical companies, but we, as in the natural, integrative, functional, holistic world, will come close to someday saying, cancer? Oh, here's what you need to do. And even if we can't get rid of it, we can learn to live with it. Just like an unwelcome guest in your home. But this way, we will not be a hospitable host, but we will be kind to our body so that we can live a thriving life. So I want to thank you for everything that you're doing and for saying yes to being our keynote speaker in the classroom and also the summit.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
And for those of you who haven't gotten your tickets yet, remember we're giving away 2 today, a week from today. So text me at 407-373-5959 or email me. Just make sure that you're there for the entire day. On November 1st, we open our doors at 8 o'clock. We close our doors at 6. But through that, we're going to create an incredible bond with each other to learn and grow and get some tools that you may not know you didn't know about. And so get your tickets and let's continue to grow together. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lily McDermott and Dr. Mark Rosenberg wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job. That was a good one.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.